Hey guys, welcome to Crosstalk. I am so nervous, so please stick with me. This podcast is welcome for any and every religion. If you're Muslim, Mormon, Jewish, whatever it is, you're invited to be a part of the conversation, as well as even atheists, because that's my favorite type of conversations, is being able to learn about other religions, pick apart in what ways I need to grow stronger in my faith. And so you guys are 100% welcome to this podcast as well. The whole gist of each podcast is going to be where there is a subject, and you guys are all going to ask questions. So it's curated for you guys. For example, if I were to not believe in anything and the topic was over relationships, a question could be, why do you have to have religion a part of relationships? Or why isn't being Muslim better? I don't know. Something like that to allow me to think more and just be able to have an open conversation about different religions. The reason why this podcast came to be is a year ago I had this idea of wishing that whenever I was younger in college or in high school, I wish I had someone that I could ask my difficult questions to, because honestly, I was so secluded to myself. I was so afraid to ask questions because I was insecure of what answers would be, which led me into very toxic relationships and led me down roads that I wish I didn't go down, but God used it for good. And I also had so many questions about religion in general. I thought I was truly following Christ, but the whole time I was in lukewarmness, which we'll probably talk about later on. And so I was at a very not safe spot in my faith. And so I wish I had people to kind of pick apart my brain and pick apart theirs. And so this is what the purpose of this podcast is for. Oh, by the way, Mishi is our co-host. She's always with me, and so I thought might as well have her input in the conversation. But back to what I was saying. The reason why I did not start this podcast a year ago is because I had this idea, but I didn't think it was, my thing. Like, I didn't think I was supposed to do it. I thought it would be a good idea to do because, one, I'm an introvert. Two, I do not like talking for long periods of time. I dissect it too much. That's why I do video, is I can edit things out. But talking for a long time scares me because honestly, I am not eloquent with my words. Like, I just pulled that out of left field. I know I don't use that in an everyday life. I'm from the South. I use very country words. I just didn't think it was for me because I compared myself to all these other people like Cliff and Girls Gone Bible and George Janko. My words are so far from those people. And I just felt as if I needed to have that vocabulary and I needed to speak in almost like Psalms or Proverbs in order to be capable of talking about Jesus on the internet. And so I wrote myself off completely last year. I was thinking of doing it with my friends, but we kind of called it off because we were like, we're really busy. I don't know if we can do it. And I definitely wasn't going to do it by myself. So I just called it off. And it kept coming up in my mind, like, should I not? Should I not? And a year later, we did this renovation project that some of you guys might have seen. And Kid did this wall. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, why does that kind of look like a podcast wall? Like, why does it look like I hired someone to make a podcast wall, But then I was like, I'm reaching so far. Again, Brooke, you're not capable. You can't speak correctly for the internet. You can't do that. So then fast forward like a week or so. I was kind of praying about it, kind of off and on. And I got my action figure Bible book. Let me get it for you. Okay. Don't judge me, but I have always had troubles with reading the Old Testament until this action figure Bible book. Pictures just help me so incredibly much, and I got this at my kids program because the teacher was passing them out, and all the kids were like, lame. That is so lame. Action figure Bible book. And so I had to whisper into the teacher's ear, like, can I have that, please? And so I got it. It shows everything with pictures, you know, what action figure Bibles do. And so the other day, I was praying to God very faintly, like, should I do the podcast? I don't know. And I continued to read my action figure Bible book. And I was in the part of Moses. And so for those of you that don't know about Moses, Moses is just your everyday man. Whenever he was a baby that was in a basket that was going down a little Nile River. And he ended up in Egypt and then got kicked out of Egypt because he murdered somebody. So he was a sinful man, everyday man that God came to. So God came to him and said, hey, you are going to let the Hebrews out of Egypt, which is a huge ask because he's going up to Pharaoh, which is a person that can murder him in a snap of a finger. But God is like, no, you're going to go to him and you're going to tell him, let my people go. And Moses says, who am I to speak to Pharaoh of Egypt? Who am I to lead the Hebrews? I am not a leader. God said, I am your leader and I am with you. Sorry. Believe me that you and the Israelites will come to worship me on this very mountain. Moses said, I am not a prophet or a priest. What if they ask me your name? And God says, I am who I am, and I will perform my wonders against the Egyptians. And then Moses continues to doubt. He says, I am not a good speaker. I cannot do this job. But God is tired of Moses' excuses. He says, I made your mouth, didn't I? I can make you speak with it too. But very well, I am sending your brother Aaron to meet you. I will help you both speak. Now go. And so when I read that, I started sobbing outside. Because it felt like God was directly talking to me, like, because I had prayed before this. I was like, hey, it needs to be really obvious that I need to do this because that's the only way I will. Like, I am terrified to talk for long periods of times. I am definitely an overthinker whenever it comes to my words, and I am not the best with my words. So, like, it needs to be very obvious. And I read that yesterday. I read that yesterday, and I came inside with my little action figure book, and I showed Gray, and I was just sobbing. He was so confused, but I was like, God literally told me I need to do this, and the only way I have confidence is because it was directly from God, and I know he's going to use it for something. If this is only 10 people watching this, if this is 5, it's for a reason, and I don't have to have the best words. I just have to have God on my side to be able to talk to you guys about him and just be in his word as much as I can and direct you guys back to the Bible instead of my own opinion, you know? So yeah, and even this morning, let me show you what I read this morning. I read in my actual Bible as well as my action figure Bible, so I balance things out. I don't want to be too much of an imbecile. But I read this in Philippians 4. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. And I really needed that, honestly, because I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning. And for those of you that know me, I do not wake up at 4 a.m. with just, like, constant thoughts of, like, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? And how am I going to do it? You know? Yeah, I just need to trust in the Lord, not myself. And I think that's my biggest problem, you know? I don't think I should do this podcast, but God does, so I guess I'm gonna freaking do it. Oh, and just, you know. But anyway, so as I said, these podcasts are going to be set up where there's a subject and it's curated for you guys. You guys will be asking questions and I'm going to do my best to answer them. But for this one, it's very different because we don't have any questions and we don't have any answers yet. And so I thought the best thing to do was to talk about the reason why I chose Jesus, or Jesus chose me. and what my journey looked like, just to be able to show you guys why I'm so passionate about him, why I want to talk to him, and why I feel confident in following him in even this. So I had briefly talked about my testimony a while back on my second baptism, but it was very brief. I didn't go through everything because I know that people are slowly getting shorter and shorter attention spans, but since this is a podcast, I guess I can yap. So yeah, I'm just going to go more in depth about what my testimony was and how I came to know and love Jesus. So I'm not going to go into a deep part of my childhood because, that's just too much. As some of you guys know, my parents were divorced, and so we kind of went church hopping a lot whenever I was younger. My childhood wasn't really focused about God. Honestly, that was not the main focus at all. And the one time that I kind of enjoyed church or anything that had to do with God was whenever I went to church camp. My favorite part of church camp was literally just the friends and the boys. There was literally nothing that touched my soul when it came to Jesus. It was just getting away and being able to hang out, pretty much. If I didn't get to hang out and have fun, then it wasn't a fun church camp. So it literally was not about Jesus, whatsoever. So I went to every single church camp every year, middle school to high school. And so I think my senior year, they had a sermon about what a void was like and about filling your identity or filling your heart with anything and everything except for God. Whenever they were talking about that, I just noticed maybe that's my problem. I think I do fill a void, and it was with friendships and relationships and how people felt about me and just my identity and so many other things that left me an anxious wreck. I was like, I do need God. I have sinned against him a lot, and my identity shouldn't be in all these things. And now that I actually know Christ, I realized I had an encounter with the Holy Spirit because I was sobbing because I saw that I did need him. And they gave us 15 minutes after the sermon to talk with God and just dissect what happened. I literally told God, I was like, I need you really bad, because this feeling that they're talking about without you, I know it, and I know it's not great. I know it sucks. But meanwhile this was happening, while I was sobbing on the ground, my high school boyfriend was cheating on me outside of church camp. And we're not going to get too far into that, but I'm just going to let you know I used all my coins to try to call him, and he wasn't answering. I didn't realize that was happening while I was at church camp, but once I got out and felt the vibes were off. The vibes were not the same. He just wasn't really talking to me much and kind of ghosted me. After a 2-year relationship, this was not 1 month, this was 2 years of dating this man. And he ghosted me. So that was distraction number 1 by the devil. I wasn't thinking anything about Jesus. I was thinking about how stupid and helpless I was. And then distraction number 2 was my YouTube absolutely sailed off. I went from 3,000 subscribers to 30,000 subscribers to 100,000 subscribers, probably in the span of 2 days. It was just took off. So my mind was, oh, I'm so sad and I have nobody, and also I need to keep up with this persona and this video thing that I have going on. Since it popped off, I was making really great money, and each month, sorry, this is not a flex, by the way, this is just me telling you about the past that sucked, but it seems like it didn't suck. So back to our story. But I was making good money, and I was meeting every influencer that I wanted to meet. I was taking trips that I probably shouldn't be taking, and I was talking to anyone I wanted to. Just all of these things that were major distractions now that I think about it. Because, God caught my attention, and then the devil caught it right after. Not saying that good things like money and followers is demonic. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the devil used it as a distraction, if that makes sense. That all happened for 3 years straight. Probably just putting my identity in everything but God, and it led me into an anxious spiral. I was going to California, meeting whoever I wanted, and then I went back home and I had panic attacks. Like, I was like, what is happening? Why am I sad? Why? I'm doing really cool things. Like, why does sadness have to be brought up? Why does anxiety get brought up? And I'm not even using anxiety in a loose fly term. It was real anxiety. It was like somebody was talking to me, and it wasn't Jesus, you know? So yeah, I was just like very lost, and then it led me to meeting Gray, which you guys now know is my husband. But at that time, he wasn't my husband. He was just a really cute boy that I had a very big crush on. And right when I met him, I like dropped everything else. Like, I'm pretty sure I missed a couple YouTube videos the weeks that I met him. Anyone I was talking to, completely cut that out and just started getting to know him. Pretty much replacing my identity in knowing and loving him and him loving me, which isn't healthy whatsoever, but God used it for good as well. And Gray gave me my first Bible, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I asked for this. I asked for a man with morals. But I didn't realize being a Christian is way more than morals. I thought that was the one key thing that I should be chasing, was just a man that loved Jesus so that he would treat me right. But then Gray, he started to change. I noticed his change when following Jesus, and it just like made me upset. I was like, why do you have to change? Like, that's not, what the Bible is about. It's about living your life and doing your own thing, like do your thing and just say that you love God. And, the more I read the Bible, the more I broke it down and, it kind of hinting towards change, I was like, you know what? The Bible isn't even real. Forgive me, God. I said, the Bible was written by men, so there's no way that their words are actually real, and so you shouldn't be changing, kind of thing. And so I made it my goal to kind of debunk that the Bible is real, that men had ill intentions by writing it, and everything that they said was untrue. Which was such a stupid thing for me to do. Because I didn't like a lot of things about it. Like sexual immorality, that bothered me so much because just growing up, I was in the Bible Belt. I was in, the place where they emphasized that saving yourself for marriage was literally the only purpose. That you should just never have sex. And that was such a big emphasis that that's like an icky thing if you did that. And they never explained it with the Bible. They just said, don't have sex. And I don't think that's how Jesus wanted to do it either. And so it made me have spite and just, again, find my way in debunking the Bible. So I watched podcasts about Muslim versus Christian. I watched podcasts about Muslim versus Mormonism, Muslim versus atheists, Muslim... Oh, wait. Oh, my God. I've been saying Muslim. Let me rewind. I was watching videos about Christian versus Muslim, Christian versus Mormonism, Christian versus atheist, Christian versus you name it. It was all verses. Even podcasts of atheists themselves and movies. I was just doing anything and everything to prove that it's not real. And the first thing that kind of sparked my thoughts towards it being real was Paul. As some of you may or may not know, Paul was a man that murdered Christians and put them in prison. And God revealed himself to Paul and showed himself, blinded him, and then gave him his eyesight back. And Paul went from black to white, like a complete 180, a complete flip into professing that Jesus was real and giving sermons and directing everyone back to Jesus. I don't know if you soak in how insane that is. That's like Hitler going to make a GoFundMe for Jews. Who would think? Not in a million years. If you go from murdering someone, you're passionate about hate. You're passionate about the hate towards that person. Paul was passionate. Paul was like Hitler. I mean, not as extreme. If anyone's going to get offended about that, I'm sorry. But he had hate in his heart so much to kill people, and then he turned around to professing his faith for Christ to the point of people trying to murder him. And the reason why I say his story is because Paul wrote most of the New Testament. Paul wrote about Jesus, and I was like, that would be pretty insane if he did that for selfish intent. That'd be pretty nuts of him to try to get killed after killing, So that to me, I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. But I think I'm thinking it's real, but I don't know if it's real. And so that led me to a podcast of a progressive Christian versus a conservative Christian. And before people start hating, I was a hater once too. I heard the word conservative and I was like, close-minded, bigoted, horrible, terrible man. And I went into this video thinking that. But conservative just means that you believe, the words of the Bible. You believe it's true and your life represents what the Bible says. There's action that comes within being conservative. It's not just, pointing fingers and being angry or whatever. But I watched this video. And as I was watching, it was the weirdest thing. My eyes felt like they were blinded to the fact that this was a progressive Christian. And I was that person. And I was blinded to the fact that that was a conservative Christian. I was just listening to what was happening. And the whole time I was like, God, this progressive guy is like just telling his own opinion. He's not saying concrete facts. And so therefore, anyone could get on his side, any religion, and fight for whatever he wanted. Like he was using morals, but not using the book that defines what morals is, which is the Bible. He just wasn't making sense. And I was thinking, if there was anyone else that filled in his seat, it would be a different opinion. It wouldn't be the same opinion. It wouldn't be the same narrative. And with this conservative guy, I was like, he is consistent with what the Bible says and what it explains Jesus is like. And then once I ended the video, my eyes felt as if a veil was lifted. And I noticed I have been that progressive Christian. I have defined who God was in my own opinion, which therefore creates a false God. How can I define who Jesus is whenever I don't agree with the book that describes who Jesus is? What? How does that make sense? And so again, I sobbed in my bed. I've sobbed a lot in my life. But when it comes to Jesus, it's times 10. So it gets worse from here. I feel like after that video happened and the veil was kind of torn, I realized why I felt so empty and lost is because the things that I were putting my identity in fluctuated so much. Like how guys thought about me. Everyone thinks somebody's ugly, Everybody thinks somebody's not that great. That was going to happen eventually, the longer I put my worth into it. And same thing with money. Like sometimes you have bad months. Sometimes you have good months. Same thing with YouTube subscribers. Like 10,000 people can drop you in a second because they don't know you. they don't care, And so I was just like, I just wish I had known this information way longer ago. Like no wonder I was having anxiety attacks because things were fluctuating so much. My worth was fluctuating up and down and up and down and up and down when God is constant. Like the words that are in the Bible will forever be true, about who I am and how concrete he is. And I wish I'd been reading that truth a long time before then, And so that's why I'm excited to have this podcast, is like, if there is someone out there that is looking for true peace and true joy and are lost in all of those things of pushing their identity into so many other random things, I just hope that they can hear it sooner and learn from my mistake of following this false narrative of what I should put my happiness in, And so, yeah, I followed him ever since, and my life has been completely changed. I would never in a million years have a podcast about a religion. That scared me, the thought of even talking about Jesus. And so even in this, God has changed me a lot, and I can't wait to see what it's going to be like in the future. I've only been following him for 3 years, I'm newer. And so I'm going to put some people on the podcast that have known Jesus for longer, so we can have more thorough and long conversations that direct back to the Bible. But for now, I just want, you guys to know, like, at one point I was blind and now I can see. And so I want to talk about Jesus as long as I'm allowed to, as long as he lets me. So yeah, guys, I just wanted you guys to know where my faith came from, why I'm so passionate about Jesus, and just where he's taken me out of, you know. It truly feels like from death to life. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Keep up with my Instagram as well as my community board, and I will be posting our subject for you guys to ask questions. So, all right, that's all, guys. Bye. Say bye, Michi. Bye, girlie. You want to come up here? Come up here, baby. Okay, Michi wants to say goodbye. Come here. Come here, girlie. Come here. Oh, that's how she goes. That's how she goes. Oh my gosh, I should have had her up here this whole time. Oh my goodness, you're so sweet, baby. You're so sweet, girlie. Alright, bye guys. Also, I don't know how long I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it for however long it serves you guys. If that's 3 episodes, if that's 10. I'm going to try my best. And I'm human, so, you know, hold me accountable, but don't be mean, okay? That's all I ask.